Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. This is a wee Tuesday afternoon roundup of the Celtic news over the last 48 hours or so. One or two players said to be on Celtic's radar. One player Celtic are said to have put in an offer for. And also a couple of wee updates on players who've been out on loan recently from Celtic, and also the landing spot of Scott Bain, who was released by Celtic a couple of days ago. Before we crack on with the video, please just a wee suggestion and encouragement for those not yet subscribed to the channel. Please do click that subscribe button. Even one or two new subscribers every day makes me so happy in this time at the moment where we've got no football to watch with Celtic. If you do like the video, do like the channel, please do click that like button. Remembering also on the channel there's the daily trivia quiz, and there's also regular polls which will carry on throughout the summer break. And as always, please do feel free to pop your thoughts, opinions, comments into the comment section, keeping things where you can, pleasant, polite, friendly, respectful, etc. So we can share Celtic opinions and Celtic thoughts amongst like-minded fans. So, as I said, Celtic are said to have tabled an offer for a player just recently. I find the story a wee bit difficult to believe, although the player is said to be a very talented, promising left back. His name is Harley Mills, currently playing for Peterborough in the English Division 1. Age just 19 now. He is out of contract at the end of June, and so any fee would be most likely at this point a compensation fee, although Celtic may negotiate a fee with his parent club, Peterborough. He's a player who started off in the Aston Villa Academy, moved to Peterborough, and he's had a couple of seasons at Peterborough, with also 8 games on loan at Enfield in the National League South. His main claim to fame was a spectacular free kick goal in Peterborough's cup final win over Birmingham this season. Thought to be a player that is very highly promising at left back. Other teams who are said to be interested in him are Fulham and Sheffield United. And it is said that Fulham have entered a £1 million bid for Mills in the past, although currently he is rated at 75,000 on transfermarket.com, who usually are pretty accurate with these kinds of things. He is, as I said, 19 years old. He is 5'10" in height, plays almost exclusively at left back, although can play left midfield. And he is actually very early in his career. Last season, a combination of games for Peterborough and those 8 games on loan at Enfield. 25 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 2 yellow cards and 2 red cards. And over his whole career, which is just 28 games in total over those couple of years at Peterborough, 28 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. Have to say, I am surprised if Celtic have put in a bid for him. He may well be a very promising young player. However, he is very, very inexperienced, not played above the English First Division level, has no international experience, hasn't been playing for England at schoolboy level or under 17, under 18, under 19, etc. And I would be much keener for Celtic to sign a player of that age and promise from another Scottish club, or at least be a Scottish national, or similarly a player coming from Europe who has experience at age group international level. However, we'll see how that transpires, but I personally am very sceptical about the deal. Another player Celtic are thought to have been making inquiries about, and apparently has been offered by his parent club as a potential transfer over the summer break is Bojan Miovski. Used to play for Aberdeen, however got transferred for £6.5 million early this season just ended from Aberdeen to Girona. However, he is now said to be available at £2.5 million, so a £4 million saving on what he would have been had we bought him this time last year from Aberdeen. He has had a pretty unsuccessful season playing for Girona in Europe and in Spanish league football and cup football. This season for Girona, 22 games, 4 goals and 2 assists, and he only actually played for Girona 2 times in the last 2 months, and dropped from being a starter to being a bench player, and then to being a player that was occasionally used off the bench. However, his career earlier at Aberdeen was obviously much more successful. 98 games for Aberdeen, 44 goals and 7 assists, and over his whole career for a number of different clubs, 222 games, 75 goals, 29 assists. He is 6'2", primarily left-footed, currently 25 years old. Has got international experience, 31 times for North Macedonia with 8 international goals. And I think he is a player that many of us would have been happy had Celtic signed him last summer. Not so sure that having Miovski and Ida both available as striking options is the best group of strikers for Celtic. And I would much be happier if we went for strikers such as Matthias Kiesgaard or David Strelic of Slovan Bratislava, who I think are much more the sorts of striker that Celtic should be looking at to fill our number one striker option. It's unclear at this time whether Miovski is keen to move back from Spanish football. Some stories are suggesting that he is keen to move over the summer if it gets him first team games, first choice games. There are other sources saying that he is keen to stay in Spain for another season and fight for his place in the Girona squad and Girona first team. So we'll see how that one develops over the next few days. Celtic apparently have ruled out any possible bid for Jamie Vardy, who has been released by Leicester, and I'm personally very happy about that. Another player that Celtic are said to be looking at is Arne Engels. He has been released now by West Ham. He is 32 years old and has kind of moved from club to club to club over his whole career in English football. 419 games, 125 goals and 42 assists. I think possibly more of relevance is his most recent club was West Ham. For them, he had 69 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, and did have a pretty unsuccessful time at Liverpool previously, where he played under Brendan Rodgers, 25 games for Liverpool, 4 goals, 1 assist. However, the link to Brendan Rodgers might well be a factor in him being offered a place at Celtic. I personally would be disappointed if that's who Celtic are going for at 32 and with a pretty poor record recently for goal scoring in England. I would be unhappy if Celtic went for him, and I would think personally Ings is much more likely to go to a lower half English Premiership club or an English Championship club pushing for promotion instead. Scott Bain, who was released by Celtic a couple of days ago, has now been signed by Falkirk, who are just promoted to the Scottish Premiership for next season. We'll see how that develops, and it's nice to see how quickly he's got another club, having been a backup at Celtic for so many years. Luis Palma has been talking to the press at home in Honduras, and he confirms that Olympiacos, where he was on loan, have decided not to sign him for next season, and they'll be coming back to Celtic. However, it does appear also that Celtic and Luis Palma's agents are very actively looking for a new club for Luis Palma, and it's not thought that Brendan Rodgers has any plans to keep Luis Palma, and so he's either going to be sold this summer or loaned out again this summer, and it would appear Rodgers has no intention of giving Luis Palma any possibility of reclaiming his spot in Celtic's squad. A player in a similar position is Marco Tilio, who's been on loan at Melbourne City in Australia, and as I've said in a couple of recent videos, he's had a brilliant second half to the season in Australia and was one of the star players for Melbourne City, who at the weekend became the Australian champions, winning the final 1-0. And certainly Marco Tilio was thought to be one of the star players in the whole league in the second half of the season. He is due back at Celtic for pre-season training in a month or so's time. He's currently away on international duty for Australia, but has said that he is looking forward to playing again at Celtic and playing again to establish himself, although there are contrary stories to say that Melbourne City are looking to loan Marco Tilio again for another season. I think probably the best option for Celtic is to see how Marco Tilio does in pre-season training and the pre-season friendlies, etc., and give him the duration of pre-season and the first month up to the end of the transfer window to see how he's doing, how he's progressing, given the fact that a lot of people who've been watching him recently have said he has improved greatly in Australian football. But personally, I would be very keen for Celtic to give Marco Tilio a good go to see whether he can establish himself as one of the backup players to Maeda and Kuhn, alongside players such as Yang and Forrest. Because I do think he is a player with immense talent, tons of pace, who has improved a lot in terms of his passing and crossing whilst in Australia. In terms of transfers away from Celtic, it would appear that Atalanta are continuing in their pursuit of Arne Engels. They are looking at him as a potential replacement for their midfield, as they are fearful they're going to lose a couple of their current players to England or bigger Italian teams, and it's thought that they are lining up a bid of £20 million plus for Arne Engels. I would be surprised if Celtic cash in on Arne Engels just yet, although that would be making almost 100% profit on what we bought Engels for this time last year. However, I think he showed a lot of promise, and I think he'll be even better next season than he was this season, where he did seem to tire a wee bit as the season went on. And over the course of the season, Engels played 52 games with 10 goals and 13 assists, and he did actually have a particularly good Champions League campaign in terms of goals and assists and performances. No other players said to be definitely leaving Celtic or definitely coming to Celtic currently, although there are one or two wee other stories bubbling under. So we'll finish off things at that point there. Going to do another wee update video in a day or two's time, just depending on how the news stories break and develop. And so before we go, just a wee polite suggestion again, if you are new to the channel, not yet subscribed, please do click that subscriber button. Do feel free, if you're an established viewer or subscriber to the channel, to pass on the details of the channel to other friends, family, Celtic supporters, football supporters, etc. And as always, do feel free to pop your own thoughts regarding the prospect of Celtic signing Harley Mills or Bojan Miovski or Danny Ings, and what your thoughts are regarding letting Arne Engels go, or whether we should keep Marco Tilio to give him a trial in the squad for the next few months to decide his long-term future, or just cash in and send him back to Australia again. So until the next video, goodbye and hail hail.